People deluded, I'm back again now. The World Cup is obviously underway, so there's a lot to talk about in relation to the World Cup. Transfer business is rife, but there's only so much you can waffle and talk about that. Now, with us being just over a month away from the Premier League season, I thought let me make a video with the players that I believe have the most to prove in an Arsenal shirt. Now, again, collectively, we all have to prove something. We've got to the pinnacle. The only way is down. Obviously, we want to win the Champions League, win the FA Cup, win the League Cup. But in the Prem, we're at the top. The only way is down. It's one thing getting there. It's another thing maintaining. Everybody's coming for your head back. So, yeah, man, obviously we grinded it out. We did what we needed to do. But I just thought, let me have a bit of fun and, the players I feel have the most to prove next season or to convince the majority of the fan base. So if I've left any names out, let me know. If you disagree, let me know. If you've got completely different players, let me know. I thought let's just have a bit of fun. The first I'm going to say is Victor Gyökeres. Now, for me, he ain't got nothing to prove. He's got nothing to prove to me. I think where it comes to link-up play and general play, you've shown that you can meet Arteta halfway. I think you're never going to... It's so ugly, it's beautiful, as I say with Gyökeres. You're never going to be the prettiest footballer, and I think people will always be aesthetic merchants. Of course, we could upgrade. Of course, all of those things. But the one thing I like about him is mentality. Did everything to sign for this football club, coped with the pressure, put the number 14 on his back, got 14 league goals, and helped deliver us our 14th league title and play his own part in ending our drought of 22 years. So he's got nothing to prove to me, people. I think he's a valued squad player. But I do think we have to start with Victor Gyökeres because for some people, I do think he has a lot to prove because the expectations owing to the abnormal rate that you were scoring at Sporting Lisbon, the exchange rate hasn't necessarily correlated, whether that's because of the standard of the two leagues, a bit of an offensive tax with maybe Mikel Arteta could evolve us tactically, the way teams set up against us, and the fact that we wanted a striker in it. So any striker we signed, whether it would have been Isaac, Sesko or Gyökeres, because they were the names that would have been said, people. So, yeah, I think he's delivered. He's here to score goals, and it is what it is. But I think you've got the capacity to score more than 14 league goals. It was a bit touch and go at the first half of the season, came into your end in the second half of the season. And I think you could genuinely get 20 Premier League goals. If he got 14 league goals, some will say that's decent. Some will say that's not enough. And that's not enough for the caliber of an Arsenal striker. And again, I think he's just got to prove that consistency because I do think the doubt is already waiting. I still think people have him as a system striker, in which every player is a system player. Some people still think he came from a league which made him look better than he is, and some still think Arsenal need a different profile. So Gyökeres has to prove he's not just a goal scorer. He has to prove that he continues to be the missing piece, people. So yeah, man, 14 goals is respectable. It's good, but I think you could be great in that regards. If Arsenal need the title, we need more title winning moments, and that's going to come from your attackers. Now, the next one, our captain, Martin Ødegaard. You're seeing what he does for Norway. I do think, my hottest take with Martin Ødegaard is, could he be our Bernardo Silva? Obviously, Bernardo was a good player as much as he's a rat. But what I mean by that is you could play as an 8, could play as a 10, could play in the pockets on the left or the right, could play as a wide kind of playmaker that inverts. He's already got a good relationship off that right-hand side anyways. And you see at the end of the day, he's our captain. Obviously, I'm being a bit disingenuous in a positive way, but he's the captain that ended our trophy drought. He's also the Norway captain, and they're having a fairy tale at this moment in time where their country's concerned. I think he's good for the system. He presses, he gets the ball and threads the lines, He's like the glue that holds the team together. Obviously, with Ødegaard in the final third, goals, assists, that season where him making that late run and finishing, I don't think that's Martin Ødegaard anymore. But at the same time, we've got Eze. If Eze's not perfect, but Eze needs to go up the gears. You've got on paper, whether he's going to be here or not, Wanyeri, long-term, Dalman is going to be there. Obviously, if you go and sign Morgan Rogers, there's food for thought. I'm being a bit silly, and I don't think Mikel Arteta is going to do it, but Martinelli in Brazil, he played in that role. You've obviously got Kai, you've got Marino, people that could play there. Obviously, with Miles Lewis-Skelly, Zubimendi, and Rice, there's a school of thought where we might not play with like an 8 and a 6 or 2 8s and 2 6s and a 10 in Ødegaard's case. There might need to be some movement. At the end of the day, he's had 2 injury hit seasons. The quality's there, but we need him to stand up to be counted. He's had 2 injury hit seasons. He's got 2 years left on his deal. Again, the system is evolving. There were many a times when games looked a bit tough, he was hooked. Granted, he's been injured and whatnot, but I think, the technical safety that he brings, what Ødegaard does on his day, everybody knows, but that greater level of consistency, more onus on the team, it's so far removed now, But for me, in the 2022-23 season, which everyone remembers from Martin, right? I always felt, and the key part at that time, he was scoring goals. I always felt, that I want to see him drop deeper, because what I mean by that is you might them times there you might rob him of goals and assists and being in around the final third, but you step him back and you might rob him personally of that and his goal tally at the end of the season and assists, but you might give the team greater impetus. And I think at this moment he's obviously going to be one of the first names in the team sheet, but you're probably becoming more of a rotationary piece. And like I said, ultimately, Martin Odegaard's an interesting one because you lot know I rate him highly, but I do think this season is a massive season for him and everyone with Arsenal Football Club. He's the captain, he's a creative leader, he's the man people look at when Arsenal need control, rhythm, and inspiration. But there's uncomfortable conversations. We're linked with being linked is a different thing, but we brought in Eze. There was Nico Paz rumors. It tells me that our priorities this season could be potentially a left winger, defensive reinforcements, a central midfielder, obviously a backup goalie. I think we'd like a striker. I think that's parked off. But that tells me beyond all of that, we're open to having creative footballers, like, in an abundance in which Odegaard could find himself being the odd man out people, if I'm completely honest with you. So, yeah, I think Odegaard needs to go up the gears, man. The question can't be, is Odegaard good? We know he's good, but can he still be the guaranteed made man in this next version of Arsenal? He's got 2 years left on his deal. So I don't think that means panic, but for someone of his stature, there's been radio silence around the new deal, people. It's a big period. Arsenal are evolving. If Arteta wants more unpredictability, if the attack needs more goals and more chaos, Odegaard has to show he can lead that revolution. He can't just be neat. He can't just be tidy. He can't just be safe. He has to affect the big games. And this is from someone that loves Odegaard. Odegaard is still a very good player, but next season he has to remind everyone of why Arsenal run through him, in my opinion, people. And then you've got Kai Havertz, because I think he's a valued squad player. I wouldn't get rid of him this season. I don't think he's got anything necessarily to prove to me personally, because I think a lot of Arsenal fans, when you accept him for what he is, you understand his value. We know what he brings. He brings height, pressing, link-up play, understands the system, duel winning, big game mentality, intelligence, flexibility, the false nine role that Arteta wants. Obviously, I'm never going to look at Kai Havertz on a consistent basis to make the difference and get goals and assist people. But I think a bit like with Odegaard, you've had an injury hit season, which we ran you into the ground. You've got 2 years left. I think if Arsenal fans, including myself, was to name our strongest 11 and what we believe is Mikel Arteta's strongest 11, I do think you have Kai up front and Ødegaard. And that's my point. We need you to get back to what you needed to do, people. So I still think there's an element of being able to prove himself. He's obviously valued at club and country, whatever you think. But yeah, he's on 2 years left. Obviously, we've handed out some new big contracts, probably going to bring in some new players. I don't care because it's not my money, but I do think generally Ødegaard and Kai Havertz, Andrea Berta and Arteta, there's a conversation to have. Maybe not so much in July or going into next season, but you lot get where I'm going, people. And let's have it right. We failed upwards with him up front. He can make the difference. He does turn up in big games. I see you as, when you're playing 50-odd games a season, there's times and conditions for Kai Havertz. But, if we were to name Arsenal's strongest 11 in an ideal world and then bring in, the midfielder we want, the left winger we want, the striker we want, if it isn't Kai or Gyökeres, Kai's probably made redundant. And on 200 plus grand a week, but I do think the next 18 months, that's a mandate I think the Cronkies have given you. Can we clean up in that regards, people? So, yeah, people. I think with Kai and Gyökeres, I think it's horses for courses. I don't think there's any one of those that, assuming everyone was fit and there's no such thing as fatigue, with any conditions, any tactics, any conditions, 38 games you're going to play in the same way City, for this example, look at Haaland. So, yeah, man, I think Kai's value is clear to people who watch him properly, but he still has to turn that respect into somewhat an undeniable experience. And then you've got Eze. I love Eze. I like what he's done. He's won the Prem, obviously Mr. Pennington the champs. I would say for Eze, it's simple. Consistency, greater impetus across 90 minutes. I think he's capable of moments of brilliance, but I think he needs to put his mark on a more consistent basis over 90 minutes, if I'm brutally honest. Defensively off the ball, he needs to brush up, but you have to do that because I look at PSG, they got bare creative, man, and they're great defensively. But I'm not really onto you with that because that's not why you're a professional footballer. I don't think anyone can doubt his talent, his flair, his ability to carry the ball, his creativity, his ability to make something happen and make something out of nothing. But our Arsenal talent isn't enough. So, yeah, and again, you're joining a new team. The expectations are different. There's a degree of pressure, the way teams set up against us. With the greatest of respect to Crystal Palace, who was a big fish in a small pond. You're a very talented player in amongst other talented players. It's like, I always give this example. It's like, let's just say I'm from some remote village and I'm very smart. I'm 10 years of age and I'm doing GCSE and A-level and university work. And I'm clearly someone that should be part of the gifted and talented program. Like I said, I'm from a small remote village. Let's just say, whatever small remote village this is, there's been word in the mainland, like in London or something, that, there's a smart kid here Let's just say, long story short, they send me to a school where there's other gifted and talented, equally as smart and kid geniuses and things. Obviously, if I'm the smartest kid in my village and I've gone to this specialist school and there's 30 kids, including myself, we're all of that kind of talent. How do I stand out? Am I really that special? Do you get where I'm going? You know, at Palace, you can have moments. At Arsenal, you need standards every week. Can Eze do it when teams sit deep? Can he do it on a more consistent basis when we need that magic? Because that's why he's here, people. Of course, I don't think it's all him. I do think the demands Arteta places, he has to get up to speed with that. And I think he's showing that. But I just think there's a lot more to come from Eze, if I'm brutally honest, man. He's the type of player Arsenal fans love. He brings out personality. He's got sauce. He's got unpredictability. He's what get bums on seats, people. You know, and that's my thing. He's got ability, but at Arsenal, he's had, you know, he has to turn moments into a weekly influence on a more consistent basis. Less moments, more proactivity over 90 minutes. This one is with a heavy heart. And I'm just going to say this. He can do no wrong. I'm with him to the end. It's my guy. All of that kind of stuff. This one might annoy people, but Saka, unfortunately, and it annoys me, you know, he's world-class, top class. He's had injuries. He's Arsenal's guy. Listen, he can do no wrong. I'm with him to the end. But I know how good you are, Saka. And I know it's not all your fault, but I need you to get back to your best because you've seen the theme early doors, innit? I'm mainly getting at the attackers. The attackers have put their bodies on the line. They've all had great moments. It might not be your best individual seasons of last season, but it's your most significant one because you've won a Prem. Saka's carried this club. He's been one of the first names on the team sheet, but I need him to stay fit and I need them goals and assists. Yes, people double up against him, etc. But, you know, people are saying, has he lost his pace? Has he lost his goal scoring touch? Obviously, I know he's not really been fully fit. You can see it for England at the World Cup and you can see it in the 2 cup finals we played, you know, but death taxes and Saka making a difference was the thing. So I do think he needs to get back to it. Simple as that. Get back to what you need to do. Go and get goals and assists. I'll always be with you, Saka, because you're our guy in it and you've done everything. But you're now one of the Arsenal captains. You're one of the first names on the team sheet for club and country. You know, we're looking at you. I don't care about it, but you're on 300 bags a week. So you've gone from being the young boy to the man now, literally, people. He just needs to get, he's still our superstar. He just needs to get back to his most dangerous version of himself. I'm not going to lie. I think Martinelli is on borrowed time. I'm not going to lie to you lot. I'm not going to lie. I think he's on borrowed time. I think you caught life because we don't really have pace like that. And I think you've got 12 to 18 months. You've got a year left with an extension. I think if you just accept him for being a tool in the toolbox, then great. But he is on big money. We do need greater consistency. I love Martinelli, but we need more in it because no one would have cared if Trossard and Martinelli or either all went. Like we were kind of past it and checking out mentally from the left-hand side. I love Martinelli, man. He didn't come from our academy, but he might as well have, in it, people. He's had moments, even in the last 2 years, 3 years, where he hasn't been that guy of 2022, 23, scored in big games and made decisive moments, but the numbers aren't good enough. The level of consistency isn't good enough. The way he's, you know, the lack of progress and significant progress, Martinelli is not enough, man. I like him. I respect what he's done. You know, I remember there was a point we was having that conversation, Saka, Martinelli, who's really levels sort of thing. I need him to get back to his best because that left wing is a position, yeah, people, if I'm completely honest. He has to prove he's that guy. He has to prove he can do stuff without just being a transitional threat. Clearly, decision-making has to improve. Final third, consistency, all that kind of jazz. I'm a bit checked out because we are getting to that stage. But, yeah, he's got talent, but he has to prove it because, you know, a lot of players that are first names on the team sheet and key players, I'm not saying you're going to sell them all, but at the current rate it's going, the next year, 2 years into it, if we keep this trajectory up, time catches up with everyone. We can't keep carrying players. Some of it is not their fault, but the Kais, the Ødegaards, the Martinellis, you get where I'm going, people. This might shock you lot, but I'm going to say Miles Lewis-Skelly. Now, I don't think Miles Lewis-Skelly in the same vein as some of the other names, people. It's a different kind of pressure. The man handles it. I just think it's a thing where if Arteta, and I know you're going to struggle with consistency at moments, you're young. You've shown you can handle big games. You've shown you can handle it in Europe, in the Prem. You can handle when they're talking about you off the field. You're an Arsenal midfielder, and it'd have been crazy if we sold him. What I mean by prove himself is it don't matter if there's Bruno Gomares and there's Zubimendi, and I'm being a bit silly, but Declan Rice, Gaffer, you need to play me. He's got the personality. He's got the technical ability. You know, the last 2 years, even when he's played a significant role or a not significant role, you've seen what he's done. So it's for me with Miles Lewis-Skelly. When I say prove, it's just keep reminding these lot what you're on, innit? Like, we know what he does. I would say for me as well, Martin Zubimendi, 100%. I think people are disingenuous. I think he did the reverse Eze and Gyökeres in that Zubimendi started his Arsenal career strong. Them lot kind of struggled and they ended the season strong. By the end of it, Zubimendi, a European winner, you was benched by Lewis-Skelly. And, you know, I do think you looked a bit spent. You looked overplayed. We do need to let you adapt to the league. You know, character-wise, I do think you've got mentality, but you look like, you know, you became a bit overwhelmed. All of that kind of stuff. For me, I rate Zubimendi. You know, okay, players at 8, players at 6, he can give us something, but there's an element of people that don't share the same way as me. Like, oh, like Liverpool wanted him, Arsenal wanted him, this one wanted him, chasing him for years. You know, we saw what he did for Spain a couple of years ago in the Euros. Like, we're just scratching the surface. Like, I think he's even had his best goal scoring season, but I think he's got to remind people, because at the end of the day, if you get Bruno Gomares, you've got Rice, you've got Miles Lewis-Skelly, it could get dark for you. It could get dark for you, Zubimendi. And if I'm honest with you, rightly so, towards the end of the season, Lewis-Skelly and Rice are a better option. You know, you did look like you was feeling sorry for yourself. The man's quality, very intelligent, tactically and technically secure. Space, tempo, positioning. He's a player that's never going to draw the headlines, but high football IQ player. I love him, but you need to remind people what you're on, man. He's got the quality, but he has to make Arsenal better in ways even casual fans can see people. So ultimately, for me, when I look at this Arsenal squad, I don't see a team full of bad players. I see a team full of players at different stages. Gyökeres has to prove he's the missing piece. Ødegaard has to prove he's still one of the main characters. Kai has to stay fit and, you know, love him or loathe him, you can see his worth. Eze is more of a consistency. Saka is more getting back to your best. Martinelli, you can't afford to get left behind. Miles Lewis-Skelly, just keep doing what you're doing. You know, Zubimendi proved that you can, you know, show that creative consistency. And I think a big part of him is we don't have enough options, really. So it'd be interesting. But as I said, let me know who you lot feel. Am I wide on the mark? Am I on the mark? Is there some players I've forgotten? Like, subscribe. And let's be honest, next season, there's no hiding places because we're trying to win a Premier League title once again.
I think